All right, let's do this. So, people are gonna love this, especially people who are playing this build and don't like bug builds getting fixed. But it needs to be done. The game needs to be balanced so that all or almost all builds feel pretty good to play. And this is obviously overperforming. So what we're talking about here is the Gel Core's detonating arrow build that uses explosive traps to proc the detonating arrow and Gel Cores to scale the damage tremendously. And this looked really sus to me when I was seeing how much damage it was doing. So I spent 4 or 5 days now testing it in many different ways, and we finally come to a place where I think I know what's going on. One of them I know is going on, and the other thing I suspect is going on, but it's much harder to test. But I'm going to go through all the things I tested so you know exactly how we ended up where we are, what is doing all the damage, what's not doing all the damage. You can't DDoS me through this. No, the information has to be out. Sorry, Johnson. It has to go. People must know. They must know the truth about this. All right, so here's where we're at. So the first thing I tested was explosions versus tendrils, because I noticed that the builds are all using tendrils. Yet the scaling on tendrils suggests it should be the worst option, because tendrils has 75% added damage effectiveness versus what 200% added damage effectiveness for the explosions, and the explosions have pretty much all of the multipliers. Including Sucker Punch Arrow, which is crazy strong, or should be. Lethal Blast, Concentration, Beast Slayer gives it more damage that it doesn't give to Tendrils, and even over here, Well Crafted and Thundersteel Arrow, which does not, it bypasses the cooldown when you play it this way, so this one also applies. Because of all this stuff, Explosions should be way stronger than Tendrils. Like, they just should be. The only thing that Tendrils really gets is Piercing Thunder. So what we did is I made a full explosion build, and I did all this stuff while trying to keep my gear relatively the same. I already had my my Gel Cores daggers. I did not make them legendaries. I didn't do really any crafting like that. And we tried it, and like the damage was good. It was definitely good. It was even strong, but it was vastly inferior on single target to Lightning Tendrils. And this is where Lightning Tendrils should be weak. It should be bad on single target, because it's supposed to hit only once, 75% added damage effectiveness versus 200% added damage effectiveness, and virtually no multipliers in here except for Piercing Thunder, Copper Dust Arrow, which we'll get to later, and then the 20% from Beast Slayer Arrow should probably apply to it. That's pretty much everything that should apply to it. So, in the testing, Tendrils just kind of blew it out of the water. It was way better, and even when we took out Piercing Thunder, it was still way better than Explosions. So that was really surprising, because I actually thought we were going to find there's an even stronger version of Detonating Arrow that people weren't playing. So when we didn't find that, I was like, okay, we gotta look further into this. So the other thing we tested early on was people were reporting that they were getting to crit cap with Detonating Arrow faster than they should, without enough points, including accounting for crit vulnerability, which is 20%. They were still getting faster, so we tested both quick detonation and weak spot to see if it was getting like additional crit vuln. The answer is it wasn't. I don't know exactly what was going on there. I think people were just struggling to see or to differentiate the numbers between Detonating Arrow and their traps, and seeing some trap damage, or actually just like, I don't know actually what they were doing. Just not seeing the white numbers as much as they should have. When I tested it pretty heavily on, I had like 15%. I was like 50% crit chance away, and I could still see it on training dummies. So, and I could see it on Tendrils. So that told me that wasn't an issue. So that doesn't seem bugged to me. I think these are both working as expected. Okay, the next thing we wanted to know is, well, if this is overperforming, there are two ways that could be going. Well, two obvious ways it could be going. And the easiest one to test is this shotgunning? So if this is shotgunning, then 4 points into this versus 1 point should make a significant difference, because it gives us maximum targets. So you start off with 2, you go to 4, 6, 8. The way this is worded, it has to chain out to enemies. It should not shotgun. It should need an enemy there to hit. In testing, it doesn't shotgun. Surprisingly, I really thought this was what was going on. I was pretty sure it was shotgunning. It is actually not shotgunning. 1 out of 4 and 4 out of 4 give the same clear time on a boss, on a single target. There's no difference between them. Okay, so that's busted. That is not what's going on here. So what is it? We also tested additional trap scaling to see if there's something weird going on here with taking all your traps here and all your traps here, working as intended, definitely scaling the damage, but I couldn't see any reason why these were like not working properly. So that led us to the first big thing and the most obvious, easily testable. Copper dust arrow. This says that if they have an arrow attached, it will give 20% less elemental resistance. This reads as if, as long as there is an arrow, could be 1, could be 5, minus 20, which is in line with the expected balance of a node like this. Should this instead apply minus 20 per arrow attached, that is broken. And so it reads as if it doesn't do that. And it looks as if it shouldn't do that because minus 20 is already pretty good, especially for only a 2-point investment. So the first thing we had to test is, okay, is it actually busted damage? Is there anything going on here, whether it be additional arrows or just like 200% instead of minus 20? So we took 2 points out of this and went and fought a boss without it. Massive difference. The time to kill went up drastically. It was way less damage when we didn't have copper dust arrows. So immediately we knew, okay, this is not minus 20. This is like something like minus 200. But is it minus 200 because of a rounding error, or is it minus 200 because it's applying per arrow? At that point, we applied all of the arming time we could find, because that'll allow us to put on more arrows before it explodes. So you'll get additional elemental resistance on the enemy. So we took Beast Slayer arrow total. We're down to 1. We're at 1 of 4 before, and we are at 0 of 2 on this before. We tested like that. And then actually we were at 1 of 2 on this before because we couldn't do 1 of 4 here. So we were 1 of 4 and 1 of 2. We're at 4 of 4, 2 of 2. And we also took aimed shot, which is a maximum time charge. And then we went and fought the enemy, obliterated him even faster, like more than double the speed. I absolutely annihilated him. Tested this on both Shade, tested it on the Dragon because we were testing on both those guys, and it was just clear as day that this is applying per arrow. So this is what I would call a bug. Now, of course, EHG, maybe they intended it to be like that. If they did, it's massively overtuned. But based upon the wording of this and the power that it provides, if it were to work as worded, this seems like a bug to me. I'm pretty confident in that position. Either way, this is the big overperformer. The other thing that I think is off that I don't know how to test, except for remove all the other possibilities, is lightning tendrils just is still doing too much damage, even when you apply for this, because this would apply to explosions as well. So this can't account for why tendrils is doing so much more damage than explosions. It just can't. There's no way it can account for that, at least that I can think of. And so I think lightning tendrils doesn't have 75% added damage effectiveness. I think it might be more like 750, which would explain why it scales so much more powerfully than explosions, when explosions should be the better scaler with the multipliers and 200% added damage effectiveness. That one I can't prove. I don't know how to prove it, but the fact that I can not have piercing thunder on, not give it any additional multipliers, and it'll still outperform a fully spec'd out, geared out explosion. Copper dust arrow can't account for that because I'm using it in both cases. Tendrils got to have something going on. That I don't know exactly what it is, but added damage effectiveness is all I can think of. If it's not shotgunning like I thought it was, then the only thing that I can think of that's left is added damage effectiveness is just too high. It's higher than it's purported to be, which is 75%. So that's where we're at with it. I know this is working weird, and I'm confident it's a bug based upon everything I know about the 4+ years of testing I've been doing in this game. I'm confident this is a bug, and I think there's a bug in lightning tendrils as well. And so that's why this build is doing so much. By the way, all the builds out there that are capping the explosion damage and all that stuff, they're adding explosion damage, not really helping much. Actually doesn't help much. In fact, this one, Sucker Punch Arrow, is actually at negative because it makes it harder to scale a copper dust arrow because it keeps removing the arrows. This is actually a negative. This should never be a negative. This is a negative on builds. You probably notice people aren't doing Sucker Punch Arrow. They might not know why, but that's why. And they're building into the explosions, but these are very secondary at best damage. Like, they're much weaker than just straight going lightning tendrils. Going straight lightning tendrils, not worrying about explosions, does, from what I can tell, more damage or just as much damage as adding into explosions. And that's just super weird to me. So that's where we're at with it. Pretty confident this is a bug. Reasonably confident there's a bug also in Lightning Tendrils. So I'm sorry if you were hoping this wasn't bugged, but the reality is this was insanely overpowered anyway. Bugged or not bugged, there's no way it's going to stay like this. It's just too powerful. But that's where we're at now. It looks like there's some bugs. Those bugs, by the way, if they're removed, do not make this build bad. It's still very good. It's, in fact, possibly still S tier. So if they were to fix these, you'd still be able to play this build. It would still be strong, but it wouldn't be so broken as it is right now. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about this. Feel free to flame me in the comments because I just ruined your favorite build. Now that you know it's bugged and maybe the EHG is going to fix it. This is what we have to do. It's, if you want to play a balanced game, if you want to play a game where all the stuff feels good, you got to figure out what's going on with the outliers. This is just part of the process. So thank you for watching. Have a great time in LE, even if your favorite build got busted now. But hopefully you can still enjoy it. And I'll see y'all again real soon.